Hey, everybody. On the Run with Beards and Dunn is back, and we have another guest. We're kind of starting out 2024 with a string of guests, which I have really enjoyed. Dick, do you want to introduce who we got on for our guest today?
Oh, I, this person, our guest is Bob Bartling, and I've known Bob since 1978. I didn't know anybody in Brookings, South Dakota, where Bob grew up, and I went out there to at South Dakota State University to run on the cross country team, and Bob kind of took me under his wing right away, and I tell you what, I don't know if we have enough time in 45 minutes to even come close to describing Bob, his family, living in Brookings all of his life, and what he's done for runners, not only in South Dakota, Minnesota, but really across the
Okay.
country.
And I'm going to chime in now too. I've known Bob since 1972, so I finally beat Dick at something. It's hard to beat Dick at anything. He's pretty
True.
competitive fella. But I met Dick or Bob in 1972 when I was at the SDSU running camp. They had Jay Dirksen had running camps, and I always tell this story. I was 15 years old and new to running, didn't really know anything about it, and I was excited. And Jay was a heck of a coach, and Lyle Clausen and Russ Strandy. They had some great Dean Bjerke. They had some great coaches lined up to help teach us youngsters how to run. Well, in the evening, I noticed these old men started showing up to go run with us. I mean, these guys were like in their 40s. I mean, I couldn't believe it. They should have been like near retirement. But I had never seen adults. I'd seen some coaches out running with their athletes, but I'd never seen elderly. Well, they weren't elderly, but to 15-year-old, they seemed
Well, to
they
us, they
seemed
were.
elderly. But they were middle aged, and these guys were out running and running well. And this opened up a whole new world to me. I didn't even know adults ran. I thought it was just kids stuff. And so Bob, I've got nothing but just such pleasant memories of those days of and how exciting that was that these older men would come up and come run with us youngsters, and we had a hard time keeping up with them. So Bob Bartling, I've got, like Dick said, 45 minutes is going to fly by. And I sent you,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
Mikey, first off, let's just let people know Bob is a young 97 years old. He'll be 98 on August
Oh,
26th.
you're right.
Bob, you are gosh dang amazing, honestly. And let's let Bob talk
I
a little
will.
bit.
Well, I wanted Bob to kick it off. I sent him
Yes.
some kind of a chronological list of questions, Bob, if you're comfortable. It says early life. Where did you grow up? Dick said Brookings. Did you actually grow up in Brookings?
Absolutely. Uh,
I didn't know that.
we had a family of five, and they were divided into almost two generations. We had a young lady, Margaret, and then we had Judd and Bones, Lorney, and you guys got to
Lordy,
know Lorney.
you bet.
And just as a sideline, Lorney could run a little bit. In fact,
Yes.
when we were holding the 1 hour run, why we also had a 2 hour run for those that really were into it,
Oh,
and
my.
that's the run that Lorney entered and set himself a national age record. So,
Wow.
Well, so how
but
many there? Five. Okay.
and then of course I have a younger brother, Herb, that was a good all around athlete, and particularly football and basketball. Uh,
Well, Bob, and you were, I mean, we all associate you with running, but, you played halfback on the football
right?
team. You were
Yeah.
captain and guard on the high school basketball
Yes.
team. You were the homecoming, what we call the homecoming king. Back then, they called it the homecoming lord. Man, you were a
A
stud.
Lord, yeah, Lord's lady night, huh? Okay, yeah, those
Yes.
were fun times. But you see, when after I graduated from high school, why I went into a rather dull period for motion activities, and
Mm.
Okay.
so my time period from say 20 to 40 was bad. And
So you didn't do a whole lot then.
I definitely did not. I did not get back into running. And well, I called it running, but actually I was a quarter miler in high school.
And Bob, was that partly the reason? Was it because not too long when you got out of high school, you went in, you served in World War II,
sure,
correct?
yeah, I was a veteran, yeah, and
yeah.
And it was just at the wartime, and I was into the service late, and got out early, so the service wasn't a big thing in my life. I think the total was I was only in a year, you see, and then I did for 20 years. I just did normal living, see. And then when I hit 40, the light bulb went off, and at that time, up at the college, why Pete Torino and Tom Woodall were both there, and they established and started a very, very active they didn't call it old age, but adult fitness program.
Sure.
And I got in it, and I got in it all the way because I'd neglected it for 20 years, you see.
What year would this have been, Bob? What year approximately are you talking about when this this adult fitness program started?
Okay, 65.
Okay.
1965. Right. So it was before you guys' time, see.
No, had you put on a few pounds or something there, Bob, and decided I got to lose some of this, or what?
That'd be a normal thought, but no, I was still fairly trim, but.
Well, yeah, you always, as long as I've known, you've been look fitter than a fiddle.
But my cardiovascular was non-existent.
Yeah.
I walked up to Pete Torino, one of the co-directors, and asked him what I should do to get fit. I said, I'm bad. He says, go out to the track. See, we met in the barn. You guys both know the barn.
Sure.
Yeah.
And right across the street to the north was the track. And of course, at that time, it was a 440 track. So there were four laps to the mile, you see. He told me, he said, Bob, you go out to the track right now and run as far as you can at a decent pace, and then come back in and we'll talk. Well, I went out to the track, and that time the starting and finish lines were in the middle of the track, you see, not on a corner, and I believe it or not, I could only run to the corner, the first corner, and I was just sucking air awful.
That's hard to believe.
It was for me too. And I went in and told Pete about it, but to condense it a little bit for you guys, why, it took me a month to run a quarter of a mile.
Wow.
And
did you even have running shoes? Or were they?
I hadn't.
So Bob,
I hadn't opened.
Do you have basketball shoes?
I hadn't opened my store yet, but we'll probably get to that.
We'll get to that.
Oh yeah.
But it took me another month to get a mile that I could run. See, and so then I got intrigued by it. My progress was so good, from 100 yards to a mile in just 2 months. Why, that was phenomenal. So I innocently asked, what's the club record? See, and of course, a guy by the name of Hilton Briggs held
president of the college. Yeah.
Held the president of the college, and a competitor all the way. And Pete said, "Oh, that's easy. He he ran a 6:08 mile, and he said
Wow.
nobody in the program is within 30 seconds of him, and I
Yeah.
said, okay, thanks, Pete.
You had a target. Yeah.
You got it. 2 years later, I broke it.
Wow.
No kid. What did you end up running, Bob? Do you remember?
Well, sure,
when you broke
I
it?
ran 6:05. So I only broke it. I only broke it by 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But still,
But still is okay to say because
darn right.
from then on, I was into running, and into competing and into racing, and
Wow.
it led me to many good times and things. And you guys were loyal Prairie Striders, see and you.
I almost got in trouble for that one year from New Balance.
From where?
New Balance. After I think I
Statehood.
won the Statehood Days 10 miler with a Prairie Striders shirt on, and they happened to put me. Remember when Track and Field News, the magazine, used to profile like 5 runners every month when it came out? And here's my picture there with a Prairie Striders shirt on.
With a Prairie Striders singlet.
Right, and I heard from New Balance after that. Let me tell you,
you're not the only one that heard from them, and you probably this will be news to you, Dick, and to Mike. They called me a lawyer.
Oh, really?
A lawyer from Boston called me, and he said in no simple terms, if you ever do that again, you'll be banned from running all of the races in our country.
Oh my God.
I know this is a good time to share this with you, Dick, because
I'd never heard that before.
Well,
Bob.
see, I didn't know that they reprimanded you. See,
well, they just kind of gave me a slap on the wrist.
and of course, Mike is involved feet first because we were trying to get a third runner. You see, and we didn't have one yet, and he says, "Oh, I can talk Dick into it." No kidding, he did. He says, "I'll talk him into it." So on the way down to Lincoln, I thought to myself, Bob, you shouldn't be doing this. You know the rules. So then I started expanding on my thoughts, and I thought, well, Bob Wallace is here.
Wallace.
And I said he moved in from Australia, and he ran every race in Lincoln, Nebraska for 2 years, and nobody has ever beat him. See, so that eased my conscience, Dick. See, I thought to myself, well, even if a freak thing would happen, why it won't be expanded to the news media. They may print it in the Gazette at Lincoln, but that'll be the end of it. So as you just stated, here comes Track and Field News with the picture. Here comes Runner's World with the same picture, and here comes Running Times with the same picture.
Oh my God!
And then came the phone call.
Well, Bob, let me just say, it was a proud day for me that day. Fortunate to beat Bob that day, but I was even more proud that I was wearing that gosh dang Prairie Striders.
I love to hear that because you know how I feel about our club. And
now, for anybody listening,
and our
it's
racing
hard to say
team.
no to Bob. It's hard to say no to Bob. Now, Dick, you had your story. I was working at Athletic Attic for Neil and Peggy Graff at the time in Sioux Falls, and I would represent Athletic Attic at races. Neil encouraged that. He wanted us out, advertising the store.
Sure.
So Augustana's cross country, their kickoff meet of the year is at the Augie Invitational out there at Yankton Trail Park. And there were no team titles, but Bob shows up And I kid you not, he handed me a Prairie Striders jersey and he goes, "Here you go, Mike." And I couldn't say no. I put the dang thing on, and I'm going to brag, I won the race. Big picture in the Argus Leader. And Neil Graff, I mean, it must have just broke his heart because, he wanted me to be winning races to advertise the ass of the store. Here I am with this Prairie Strider jersey on the front, on the sports page.
My God.
And Neil goes, "Mike, you didn't wear the Athletic Addict jersey." I go, "Well, Bob wanted us to go for the team title." He goes, "There wasn't a team title. There were no team scores kept." I said, and Neil he was like you, Dick. I got the slap on the wrist treatment. I didn't get. He was nice, but
you don't say no to
Bob Bartling. Let's just cut it right to the chase. Well, that's interesting. Now, Bob, you alluded to the Prairie Striders. Did you have any doings with the starting of the club, or was that something already in motion?
Oh, sure. No. I was a guy on the ground floor. No.
Charter member. Okay.
Yeah, a charter member, and I was the first president and that kind of stuff. See.
Nice.
And that was like what, 1969 you started that, Bob?
Perfect. You hit it right on the button, 69.
Okay.
And then as soon as I lost my title of president, I went into being the treasurer for 40 years.
Ah.
Yeah, that was the life.
40 years.
And the money that you guys won for the club, at all these races we entered, why it was divided 70% for the runner, see, and 30% for the club. And that lasted for 30 years. And it was a wonderful system we had. But Dick, you broke the record that day. See, you ran like 48
20.
Yeah, in the 20s. And that pal of yours, the old Michael, runs 49 40s, I think.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah,
he broke 50.
And Lyle was our third man. I remember Lyle Clausen was in 51 and change or something.
Well, yeah, but you know how competitive and good the quality is at Statehood days.
Oh, yeah, John Yeager. We had Ted Castaneda and Mark Weeks from Colorado showed up. Mark Kerp and Bob Busby, the Kansas City bunch showed up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a big race back then.
It was the toughest race at the time in the Midwest.
Right.
And they came from all over. And I think our team finished third, didn't it, Mike, that year?
I think so.
You guys
were.
Yes.
And we did, but yeah.
So, it's like cross country. It's your fifth man in cross country that holds the cards.
Yeah.
But no,
so much fun. Yeah.
You guys were great. I was so tickled. But when I got that call from that attorney,
oh, gosh,
I thought
attorneys. Attorneys are such fun people.
Oh, I'm gonna have to sell the furniture store and the runner store.
Well, just lead us into the story, Bob. I am intrigued. Nike is the powerhouse. My Lord, we'll talk about super shoes and how they led
still
the charge.
Are. Yeah, Nike.
Yeah, they still are.
Right.
But you were, charter member of the Prairie Striders. You were a charter member of Nike.
In South Dakota. I was.
Tell me
in
that.
South Dakota.
Tell us that, because you were looking for running shoes. Tell us that story.
So did they come to you? Did you go to them?
See, there were 5 guys broke away from what was it?
Blue Ribbon.
Blue Ribbon Sports.
Yeah, Blue Ribbon Sports.
Yeah. For 3 years, why I bought shoes from Blue Ribbon Sports, and so there are a few Nike, or not Nike, but a few ASICs still out there. See, and that was the line that they had at the time, and so for 3 years, up to 1971, why I had ASICs, and then when these guys broke off, from Nike and established Nike, why they wrote me a letter, and they had access to mailing lists, and they wrote
Sure.
me a letter and asked if I'd want to be a Nike dealer. That it's to be a new company, and of course, dumb me, I didn't know any
Wow.
better, but I certainly guessed right, and
I guess so.
and so all of a sudden we were Nike dealers, and that we were the first Nike account in South Dakota. So
Did they give you any stock or anything like
yeah,
that?
no, that's where I really missed the boat. That's right. No, there was no stock involved, and our salesman, you knew some of them, a lot of Doherty, Jim Doherty, and
Sure.
and then his wife, of course, ran for the Prairie Striders,
Right.
and
Bev.
she won statehood one year for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Jim was my salesman for 1 year, and that was fun.
Okay.
That was fun. He'd come in from St. Paul, see, and sell me the Nike shoes.
Sure.
And then most of my salesmen lived up in Fargo, and it wasn't too tough for them. But Nike, you see, that's the only account we had.
Right.
I never
That's all you sold were
I never
Nikes.
put in another account. Well, therefore, our volume was important to them because they had no competitors in Brookings. You see, I just
Sure.
had Nike, and it worked out wonderfully for both of us. Of course, when the basketball shoes came in, and Michael Jordan, why I'd get my percentage of basketball shoes, which I didn't really care about, but I should have saved some of them. But
oh my Lord.
So, but no, we had a wonderful marriage, Nike and Bartling shoes. People are still yelling across the street to me when I go downtown. Hey, do you still have that basement shoe store?
I bet.
A lot of people don't know this story, but and I'm just going to name names. Terry Dobrats, I think, started Extra Innings, a sporting goods store in Brookings, and he was a little put out. I know he was carrying multiple lines, and one of them being Nike. You were exclusively Nike and selling it kind of as I don't know how to say it, a side business beside furniture store. So he tried to use that against you and sent a letter to Nike, basically saying, and I heard he even came and took pictures of your furniture store. And, and now Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the story. And he, he sent him to Nike and said, look, you guys need to make a decision here. This guy, I'm trying to make my sporting goods store to go, and he's selling these out of the basement, of a furniture store. And I think in those short answer, Nike told him, this guy has been with us since day one.
No
and the last
kidding.
thing we're going to do is pull his whatever you franchise or, pull anything. Because you were with them before anybody else was with them. And so I know Extra Innings didn't survive probably as long as.
Tell us about that, Bob. Was there
that true?
Some hard feelings
Was there some, what now?
Like some hard feelings there when all that was happening?
Now, was this a Sioux Falls account?
No, it was Terry Dobrats. He played baseball, kind of semi-pro. Yeah, you remember that? Opened up Extra Innings in Brookings at the mall.
Well,
and he wanted to get you out of the business so he could have all the business to himself.
Well, so he did open a store in Brookings.
He did for a while. Yeah,
wow.
He tried to get you
out.
Yeah.
Nike to take your account because you weren't really in the business of sporting goods. You were just kind of doing this on a lark, he thought. Actually, and so, but I have to give Nike credit, even though the people beat on him all the time. They stood behind Bob Bartling and the Prairie Striders. They obviously they didn't pull your account for anything.
No, obviously. No, I didn't know he went that far with it.
Well, I kind of heard that from the inside story through my
Right,
Neil
right.
was a friend of Terry's, Neil Graff and that. Now
Sure.
let's get, from the store, from the shoes, then the
Yep.
library. I think this is, this is really the
Oh,
amazing part of the whole story.
Well,
Is
the
tell us
the
how
li-
that originated.
all right. The library is really close to my heart.
Hmm.
I was going to say it is.
There's 2-year dates that I really treasure. One is 1976. Okay, in 76, I was in the store. Of course, I mean in the Nike store. We
Yeah.
had access to bookshelves because I guess I was part of the scheme upstairs. See, uh,
Sure.
where the furniture store was, so we had plenty of bookcases, and we're starting to get these publications, and the publications are track and field news, running runner's world, running times, and we're accumulating these volumes and putting them on display in the shoe shop. So
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
finally, in 76, the light dawned, and I said, these have got to be put to use. And I thought, I'm going to index everything we've got so far and continue to index these publications. Now, I knew nothing about library science, of course, but my way of indexing, and it's still current. I'm doing the same thing right now.
I know you are.
I turn every page, see, and I make the decision: should this be indexed? See, you guys won't realize how many cards people that I have. Well, the other date, okay, the other date is 2015, the year I moved into the Briggs Library with all of my cards, which was by then in the thousands. I'm serious.
How did that happen,
What?
Bob? How were you able to take it from the basement of your furniture store or wherever it was at that point, and then all of a sudden now you're at a major university, South Dakota State University?
Oh, I know it. See, I was kind of a lucky person in a lot of my life. I mean, um, the library. Well, see, I sold the business and both of you guys know very well who Lyle Clausen bought me,
Right.
and he couldn't handle the basement, and he had to get on Main Street, and he did, and it just didn't work out very well for him, and it wasn't his walk-in traffic, but Lyle lost some of his high school accounts. See, I sold a ton of shoes to schools because they got their degree at South Dakota State. See,
Sure.
the physical ed degree. They were coaches, and they'd go out to their high school and they'd call me, and they used to buy shoes from me like crazy, and they asked me if I was still in the shoe business. You see, all those years, and of course I all of a sudden was shipping shoes like crazy. See, and I didn't travel. I didn't have to travel. It was all on the phone. That's what I'm telling you. How lucky I am. See.
Well, everybody knew who you were, Bob, and I mean,
guess.
you're a legend.
So all of a sudden, then, why Lyle decided to go out of business, and he sold the business, and that would have been in 2015, and that's when. See, I moved all my bookcases down there with Lyle. See, and so I had a semi library with all those bookcases. See, and then when Lyle sold out, I'm back to point zero. I have no place to put the bookcases, and I thought about the Briggs Library because I'd been going to the library. You'll love this part of the story. I from 1976 when I started indexing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd accumulated all these cards that I indexed, see, and I found the right size containers and all that kind of stuff, and I had all these cartons filled with 4x6 index cards, lined index cards. You can get 13 references on a line, see, and so and I'd been going up to the library at least once a year to get our volumes bound, see, and they didn't do them at the library; they sent them in. Well, I'd march in there, see, and of course in '76 and '77, nobody knew me that was behind the counter of the Briggs Library, see. But I told them that I was Hilton Briggs' handball partner when we played in the adult fitness, see, and then I asked them if they'd please bind these books, these and of course they couldn't turn me down,
So they didn't charge you a nickel, probably.
No, they charged $5.
Oh my God!
$5.
and I'd bring all these publications in, see, and so I finally got to know some of the staff, and so because I went there at least once. I always went once a year, but I went many times because of some publication dates. I went twice a year to get them published or get them bound.
Mm-hmm.
And so really, it was pretty easy for me to get into the Briggs Library because of handball.
Yeah, I pull that with Dick all the time. I'm a friend of Dick Beardsley's. You'd be amazed how that opens up doors as well, Bob.
Or closes them.
It's exactly the same thing. Yeah,
I love it. Right. How many volumes? How many books do you even have off the top of your head? Would you even be able to guess?
Oh, sure. In books, we've got right around 700.
Books on running, running related. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone's running, just like every card is running related. You see, except now we've taken on wrestling. So, yeah, and it's going gangbusters. And I'm using.
So, are you cataloging all that too? Then,
absolutely. Bob? See, I go up there every day, twice a day.
Good for you. You probably got your own entrance now.
They probably got a key to the place.
Right.
So, but 2015 when I joined that Briggs Library crew, it's been really wonderful.
Look,
so 700 books, but then what about all the magazines?
Say, I want to tell you guys about that because I had it on my notes, but I don't have time to look at my notes. But do you both know Jim? Wow. Festal.
Yeah.
Jim Firstel. Is that who?
Yeah, Dick, you know Jim him Firstel. Because he wrote stuff for you.
Yeah, he wrote a lot of. He passed away a couple 3 years ago.
He was 71 years old.
Oh,
yeah.
Firstel, I think
Jim Firstel.
It's probably pronounced. Well, listen,
it
this
is.
guy was something else, and he donated when he passed on, and he was 71 years old. He donated his entire library to the Prairie Striders.
Wow, that just gave me shivers.
It should, Dick, because it's unbelievable. That guy. He was an author. See,
Right.
well,
Right.
that gave him a front door into every publication, being an author, because he would write. He even wrote for news papers over in England. See, and
Oh yeah, Jim. I knew Jim very well. He did a number of articles on me over the years.
I
and
know
stuff.
it. That's right. He did, absolutely. And his wife and oldest son drove.
Yep. Ann and Michael. Ann is his wife, and Michael was his
brought
son.
his complete collection to the Prairie Striders library.
Holy cow!
And seriously, he hit some weak spots. I hate to say that we had weak spots in our library, but that's
Hard to believe,
I know
Bob.
it was for me too, and I hesitate to use the word in connection with our library, but we weren't big in the New England, see, and he solved that. He's got about 6 publications from New England.
Nice.
We had decent coverage of Boston Marathon, see, and New York Marathon.
Sure.
But with his collection coming in, we're all set. We've filled all the loopholes, and it's something else. I hesitate to think of. I hesitate to think I should give Joe Henderson. You guys should advise.
Yep.
Are we still? You guys still in touch with Joe?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Joe had a stroke a few years ago, but he's doing well.
Well, maybe I should call him. But the trouble is, see, I'm completely finished indexing Jim's collection, so
Okay.
I could, if something happens to Joel. See,
Sure.
See, I used to go to the meets at Eugene, and we'd meet and go to breakfast together one day. See,
Darn.
we got to be pals, and I took his running commentary publication. It wasn't very big. It was big. It was 200 whatever, 200 magazines. It lasted.
Yeah.
And I took that out in my suitcase and showed it to him one breakfast. See, so I got my foot in the door. But
right.
And I'm just wondering, but we really don't need it as badly as we once did with Jim's collection. See.
I just have to tell people, if you get to South Dakota State, the library is pretty easy to find on campus. It is well worth it. But Bob, what do you think? They need to book about 4 to 6 hours to even just get a good feel for what's in there. I've gone there several times. I could spend weeks in there.
When I was out for the anniversary for the Jack 15 a couple years ago, so Bob, he met me there. It was on a Sunday, I think. That wasn't even open. We got in there. He took me down there, and we spent just a couple hours, which wasn't enough. But I remember, Bob, you went to my file and you pulled out like 6 index cards or something on me.
You're absolutely right, Dick. And now, you remember one of the publications was. Which one was it? Track and Field News, exclusive coverage. They gave you on one magazine, and for some reason, I didn't have it on my cards.
You had missed it.
Well, it's there now.
I would expect no less from you, Bob.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
before we
And
run
there's
out
a-
of time,
And there's a big star right beside it too.
so I want to just back up to you, Bob. How many marathons? You were a quarter miler, which I kind of forgot about, and you worked your way up to the mile. Then the door got kicked open, and you probably 5Ks. I know the Prairie Striders had every certified course known to man.
That's
How-
you're
and-
good.
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well,
we had
yeah, every
13 certified courses.
certified course. How many
Wow.
marathons did you do in your career? Not that that's a standard for running, but it's kind of people like to know sometimes.
Oh, yeah, it showed I put in some miles.
How many did you do?
34.
34
total.
marathons.
Do you remember
what's
your best
PR,
time,
personal
Bob?
best?
Of course I do, but I'm embarrassed about it.
Oh,
No,
Stop it.
Bob.
I'll give it to you anyway. 245 for two,
He's embarrassed with a 245.
14. 245 14.
And what
At-
age were
at
you when
the
you did that,
age
Bob?
of 53.
Okay.
Jiminy Christmas.
I love
Well,
I would be.
it,
I'd be hanging a sign out my door.
no.
Good for
But
you.
the 1 hour run was kind of one of my favorites. And I think
Mine too.
And I think the club should be proud of its fact that we held two
National championships. Yeah.
no but-
2 a year.
but-
Yeah, two
two a
races.
year, spring and fall,
Right.
for about 5 years. So we had about 10 of them, and
Yeah, Dunn and I ran one of them together
Dick
out
and
there.
I and Randy
1982.
Fisher. I mean, we could almost count on a pretty good group of guys at least
Oh,
once a
yeah.
year, if not both times. And that's a pacing dream. I mean,
there now
split.
you gave the right big word,
Yeah.
pacing.
Yeah, pacing.
It teaches you pacing.
Yeah,
And
that's amazing.
I was proud of the club for having those
Absolutely.
available to you.
Before we
guys.
run out of time, Bob, because we are getting, it's at almost 45 minutes. I was going to finish up with this. You set the bar. I love guys who set the bar because I'm a competitive person, and I know Dick is a competitive person.
Well,
And you've set the bars for success personally and athletically. And I wrote down here keys to success. Does anything come to mind? I mean, that you could share?
Well, I'm not real sure of this success thing, but
Yeah.
Bob, you're 98 years old. That in itself is a
Longevity.
success.
What do you attribute to this?
to my age,
Your
still
mental
being
acuity. Yeah. Mhm.
Nutrition. I really do watch my nutrition, and I think that is important.
In what
It's,
respect, Bob? Is it just well balanced, or laying off certain sugars? What advice would you give?
No, it's well balanced.
Okay.
But I'd much rather talk about what we've been talking about.
Okay.
Like, see, we've got to acknowledge Kipton's passing.
Oh,
Kelvin,
Right.
Just a few days ago. See, I mean that's an unbelievable runner.
blow. Yeah.
And then Henry Rono just passed away this morning, Bob.
I didn't know
Yesterday.
that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
just,
wow.
Yeah, 72 years
But
old.
I want to predict. Our two leading candidates on track and field for the next Olympics. Can I do a little
Let's hear
predicting of one man
Sure.
and one woman?
You bet.
Well, throw it
All
out
right.
there, Bob.
Grant Fisher. Grant Fisher
good.
is my man, and my statistics would be like this: an American record 5,000, 1301. 3,000, 728, 1,500, 334, an American record 2-mile, 803. See, I mean, and these are all recent, and they're all American records. Okay, let's go to the women so they won't feel cheated. Alicia Monson.
Oh yeah, I just watched her last week.
Ready? 2-mile, 909. American record.
That beats my 2-mile record.
5,000, 1419.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. This is the one you'll both love. The 10,000, 3003.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Now isn't that neat stuff?
It is.
That is.
Now I got to get another one in.
Okay.
The world's record in the hour run.
Hmm.
Do you remember a guy by the name of Haley?
Okay. Gabber Selassie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yes.
This figure is hard to believe. 13 miles, 387 yards.
Yeah.
Dang.
13 miles. Just
in
think
an hour.
of that.
What is that pace? It's got to be like in the 430s or something.
Sure, it would have to be. That's right. Let's see. Oh, now I don't think we should worry about our Olympic teams in the marathon. They're not going to win it, but Mance in Chicago ran 2:07, for a PR. Okay.
Right.
Young ran 2:08 for a PR. And then the women's deal is really interesting. That O'Keefe.
Right, that won the Olympic trials.
There you go. That's right. With a 2:22, and she beat a heck of a girl in that Sisson, see?
Yeah, and that was her debut marathon.
Good for you, Dick. That's exactly right. It was her debut.
Wow.
But I pulled her card at the Briggs Library. I pulled her card before I came down here. And she also, in 2016, as a junior, a youth in high school, she ran a 5,000 in 15:56.
Wow.
Just think of that.
Gosh.
That's good. Thank you for listening. All right.
Wow.
And she, in 1922, she ran a half marathon in 67. Okay.
Wow. That's
And
my
also
PR.
in 22, and here's the one I like. In 22, she ran a 10-mile in 51:42. 51:42. See, we could have recruited her for Clausen's spot.
Okay.
There you
go.
go. You bet.
Oh.
And then here's a dandy too, in case we think we should worry about O'Keefe. In 23, which is just last year, she ran 10,000 in 30:55. So she can take care of herself.
So she's
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Bob, listen.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut this off.
Well, see, this is so good.
Well,
it is so good.
We'll do this again because Bob, there's so much more we could get into, but Dunn and I can't thank you enough for being part of our show. I mean, this is history in the making. You're just such a.
I like it.
Running
and I've always, for whatever reason, I've always liked you characters.
Well, it's right. And Dunn and I throw it right back at
sign
you
off,
because
Bob shared with me before you came on. The Big Mick, the bicycle event out in the Black Hills, follows the Mickelson Trail. How many miles is that, Bob?
109.
And you did it last year.
Sure.
Yeah, and do you have
109.
plans? You plan to do it?
I'm
And you plan to
97 years old.
make another attempt?
Well, I didn't enter this year when they
just bandit, Bob. Just do a bandit.
and
I think they
and
let you
what
in,
I'm
Bob.
worried about are those clubs racing.
Racers.
Yeah,
okay.
you bet. It's
Just let 'em go.
That I don't think that should turn into a race.
Well, what I love
No.
is I wanted to make sure people know that Bob's out there every day doing his thing and loving life.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's commendable.
Oh, well, Dunn, real quick. So a couple years ago when they brought me back for the Jack 15 anniversary, I ran the Jack 15, and I'm not fast anymore, but I thought I got to run it. Well, I'm about halfway through it, and I see a guy coming the opposite way on a bike, and I look over, and Bob goes, "Hey, Dick!" Bob went from Brookings out to White, South Dakota, turned around, and then
I
rode
love
all
that.
the way back.
I love it.
Amazing.
Well,
Bob, you're the best.
okay.
You're the best.
All right.
And we want to thank everybody for listening. And if you have any questions for Dunn and myself or comments about the show, you can contact us directly on our website at beardsanddunpod.com or leave us a comment on our Facebook, Instagram, or X, all at Beards and
And
Dun
if you're watching
Pod.
this on YouTube, make sure leave us a comment and hit the and be a subscriber. We'd love that. Bob, final words. Anything that you'd like to share before
Well,
we sign off?
my one, okay, there's a book out there, and we have it in the Briggs Library. It's called The World's Greatest Athletes.
Mm.
And it's
Oh,
filled completely with runners.
Yeah.
wow.
And here's what I had a field day with this book as an indexer. I quit everything else. I didn't do any other publications but that book, and it took me 1 month to do that book because
Wow.
Holy cow.
because it's this thorough. They've got the top marks for every event in track and field for the top 500 runners from 1900 to 2014.
Wow. That is amazing.
Wow.
So that's
Amazing.
it. And with that book, I could easily spend another month. So, all right.
Well, we'll have to check it out, Dunn, when we're in
Thank
Yeah,
Brookings.
so I've got to show you that book.
We'll
If the
look forward to it.
We'll
if the place
Hey, Bob.
catches fire, that's the book I grab.
I love it. Thank you.
Bob, you're the
All right,
best.
Thanks,
thank you
buddy.
guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
You
All
bet.
right,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Thank you.